Notre Dame, a critical game tonight at home against Villanova with slim NCAA tournament hopes still there. Hey, how are you, folks? Jason Horowitz. Glad to be with you here on CBSSports.com. Let's bring in our college basketball columnist, Gary Parrish, to break down this Big East game. And, Gary, when you talk about Notre Dame, despite the fact they're 7-9 in the Big East, they're coming off that close loss Saturday at UConn, there is still talk about this team in terms of the NCAA tournament. So what would a win tonight mean?
It means it keeps them alive. That's what it does. It doesn't secure anything. But let's talk about more what does a loss mean. A loss means they're done. They have to go win the Big East tournament, and I don't know that you can reasonably expect to go to the Big East tournament and win it, if only because you're dealing with Louisville, Pitt, UConn, the league's ridiculous. I don't know anybody that can count on winning that thing. So you don't want to go into New York having to live like that. A win tonight keeps them in play, and it is not only the biggest game of the year for Notre Dame, one of the more interesting games in college basketball because it's very much a lose or go home situation, assuming they don't win the Big East tournament, which is a pretty safe assumption.
And you can't win the Big East. Well, I shouldn't say you can't, but you can't expect to win the Big East tournament this year when you're going to have to play 5 games in 5 days, not 4 games in 4 days like Notre Dame would have had to in years past. All right, Gary, when you talk about the Fighting Irish, how do they get that win? What is different about Notre Dame when it wins in the Big East compared to when it loses in the Big East?
I remember talking to Mike Bray after they routed Louisville, last month, the 90-57 win, and he said, look, this isn't hard to figure out. What happened tonight, we made shots and we guarded. And when we make shots and guard, we're just like every other team. We're really good. But the alternative to that is not making shots and not guarding, and that's how you lose 7 in a row to get yourself in this situation. They're not a great defensive team, but they can guard. They're capable, and they showed that in that win against Louisville. Again, but this team is. I know Herringody gets most of the attention, and he is a star and deserves every bit of it. But he's pretty solid. He's going to get what he gets, and he can get it, and they can win, and he can get it, and they can lose. We've seen that this year. We've seen it over the past 2 years. For them to be really good, they need Ryan Ayers and Cal McElharney making shots. When those two make shots, you take a little bit of the pressure off Herringody, and then they just guard adequately. This is a serious basketball team. But when they don't, they can string losses, and that's what's happened this season.
And if they don't, this would seem a game that would be tailor-made for the likes of a guy like Scotty Reynolds because he can just blow by you in a second.
That's the thing. He's good off the dribble, and Notre Dame is not good at stopping you off the dribble. And so, no, it sets up nicely for Villanova. And, and now Villanova, suddenly, they're not in any danger of missing the NCAA tournament, but you don't want to be stringing losses at this point in the season. They're coming off a home loss to Georgetown. Now they got to turn around and play another team that was, granted, hadn't had the type of season it was supposed to have, but was a preseason top 10 team. It just speaks to the brutal aspect of the Big East, where this schedule is completely unforgiving.
All right, one last thing here, Gary. Zach Hillsland, he's doubtful. He's starting center, power forward, however you want to look at it, for Mike Bray's team, Notre Dame. Doubtful for tonight's game. How does that impact the game against Villanova?
Well, one of the advantages that Notre Dame should have is up front and rebounding, and yet, you lose a guy that gets 5 rebounds a game in just 24 minutes, if he doesn't play. Again, this is, not the time of the year where you want to be going into anything shorthanded. Is he the best player on the team, the most important player of the team? Of course not, but he is part of their rotation, and you don't want to be losing guys like that in March.
All right, it's desperation time. Does Notre Dame win?
You know what? I think so. I think they do win because it's at home. Remember, this is a team that had won more than 40 consecutive home games before they lost that one to UConn early, and it just continued to spiral on. But it's going to be a great environment. They need this more than Villanova needs this. Villanova had to travel to Notre Dame, coming off a loss. I think this sets up for Notre Dame to win, keep their at-large hopes alive, and then we'll see how it plays out over the rest of the season.
All right, Gary, we'll see how it plays out. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Thanks, Jason.
All right, folks, for more on this game or anything else in the Big East or bubble teams, be sure to stay with CBSSports.com. I'm Jason Horowitz. Take care, folks.